Hey all, Lawrence from Express Unity. Today we're going to be continuing our multiplayer survival game series, and we will be continuing working on our building system. Now, I do have work in a little bit, so this video might be a little bit shorter than usual, but I'll still try to pack in as much information as I can. So, last video we kind of got this very simple building system in place. Basically, it just spawns our placeholder object wherever we click, and it synchronizes the object across all players using RPC buffered all. Now, what we want to do is basically have a simplified grid system. So in order for it to work properly, all our objects that we want to build with are going to need to be have basically the same size for both X, Y, and Z. So what I'm going to do is just unpack this prefab, drag the cube out, and just delete the main object. Because we don't want it to be offset anymore, we just want the cube. And we're just going to... So we got a tag of build, so we're just going to drag that into the resources now. Okay. So we then want to go to the player and drag that onto the placeholder in the build manager. So let's just apply that and then disable the player again. Alright, so what we want to do first is check if the current hit object is the building cube or the ground. So what we're going to do is if hit.collider.tag, if that is equal to build, then we're going to do this. Otherwise, we're just going to do what we've been doing before. So in our build, we're going to copy this RPC, but instead of calling hit.point, we're going to make it hit.transform.position plus hit.normal. What this will do is basically align it so all cubes that you spawn are always going to match the face that you aim at. Basically Minecraft style building. So if we play this now, the first cube we place should be placed just above the terrain for us to click, and then anything else should work. So if we place the first cube, there you go, it's on the terrain. But then if we click on the face of that, you can see that all the cubes match up perfectly. So then we can make some nice little designs here. Oop, there's a bit of an error there, but I think that's because I accidentally clicked the ground. So if I build there, you can see that even though this bottom one here is offset, it still aligns because we're aligning it to the current cube that it's on. So I could spawn stuff over that, and then you'd get this little step here. So that's kind of a cool feature. Again, we can place stuff on trees, and then we can just align things up to it. Have maybe some steps. You know, it's pretty cool. Nice little simple building system. So what I want to do really quick in our player controller, I basically just want to freeze our mouse because our cursor is always it's not locked yet, so it's kind of annoying. So what we're gonna do, just gonna create a very simple canvas. Well, we've already got one here, but we're just gonna create some. We'll just create an image, and we are just going to center the image and make it very small. So there you go, you got a very small white dot in the center of the screen. That is, for now, that is just going to serve as our crosshair. So if we go back here, let's just say if input dot get key down, and we want to get the key for the escape, then we can say if cursor dot visible, or else. Then above that, let's just make cursor dot visible the opposite of is it a ball? Yes, it is. So we'll just make it the opposite of what it currently is. So we'll basically toggle between that. And then if the cursor is visible, we just want to say cursor dot lock state equals cursor dot lock mode none. And then if it's not visible, we just want to say cursor dot lock mode dot locked. So what this will do now is just give us a simple toggle to enable and disable the mouse in game by just pressing escape. So the crosshair is there, but you can disable that and enable that when you join. So currently the mouse is it's not locked. Then if I press escape and click in the scene, it's now locked, and our pointer should be where our crosshair is. So we can now use the in-game crosshair to build our structures. Jumping is still really high, but who cares? Awesome. Alrighty, so we've now got a nice little building system. Now, what we want to do, let's see. We also want to make it so the owner of the cube can destroy it, so they can edit the building if they so choose. And we want to make it so others can't do that. So let me just see, do I get our username at all? Let me just go to our login or register. And doesn't look like we actually get our username. Okay, so just thinking about how we can go about doing this. I think the simplest way for us to do this is to simply create a new public static void and call this get username, and we might have to make this a string rather. And then let me see here. If we have our result here, so let's just create a public static string username. And then when we successfully log in, we want to say that our username is equal to result dot, now let's see if I can remember this, request dot, no, that's not it. Result payload dot account information dot username. So that should now give us our username. So just to test that out, let's just quickly give it a run. Let me just enable debug mode. Oh yeah, that won't work with static. So here, what I'm going to do is we're just going to debug.log username just to make absolutely certain that we are getting our username when we log in. So when we log in, we should see our username. Oh, there it is. Just make sure that is what we want. Yeah. Okay. So, oh yeah, because this is inside the alert, of course. Okay, so that works. That's great. So now what we want to do is in our build manager, we are going to say, basically going to do the same thing here. We could, yeah, no, we'll do it like this. So basically, if it's the right mouse button now and we get the build object, what we want to do is another void, and we're going to say destroy build object. This is going to be the pun RPC. Okay. Let's see. Because I don't think we can pass through a game object, so this might be a little bit trickier. So, for now, what can we do to make this? I don't want to add any photon views, but adding a photon view would definitely make things easier, but it's not quite what I want. Alright, let's just try passing in a game object. I'll call it C for cube, and we're simply going to destroy it. Now I don't think that will work, but we'll give it a shot. Now, if we hit only if we hit a object of the tag build, we don't want to delete parts of the map, then we want to call the destroy build object. And just let's try collider.gameObject. Let's just see if that works. This part is just a whole bunch of experimentation until we basically get something that feels right. But we should, if I right click, okay, so we right failed, cannot find game object. Okay, so we need to figure out a way for us to basically synchronize the destruction of that game object. So this is what we can do. We can create a new script. Let's just call it... actually, where did I have all my build stuff? Okay, it's in player. Okay, let's just create a new script outside of everything. And let's just call this script build ID. Okay, so just for now, what we're going to try doing is making a public int ID. At first it's going to be 0, but when the game object spawns, we're going to make ID equal to random.range, and it's going to be a random between 0 and let's just say 10,000, and then we'll do plus, and plus. Just to make it super random, like the chances of this ID ever being duplicated by another client is very low. Like very, very low. And if it ever does happen, then, well, it would be a slight problem. But just for now, let's try that. So what we can do is let's first give our cube this build ID script. We'll just say build ID. And then let's apply all. So instead of passing in our game object, we now want to pass in an int, and we'll call this ID. And over here, what we want to say is build ID equals hit.collider dot get component build ID. And then we're simply going to pass in ID dot ID, I believe. So now what we can do is we can say for each build ID be in game object dot find objects of type. This is going to be build ID. And then we're just going to say if b.id is equal to id, then we want to destroy b.gameObject. So this might become a little bit of a problem with a very large server. If you have a lot of people building, say you have 4,000 objects, and then this for each loop gets called, you might have a very large problem. So for now, because the servers are going to be pretty small, there's not going to be a lot of players. This should be good. It should give you basically an idea of how you could do this for a larger scale. So, I mean, we haven't tested it yet. Let's see if it works. We should be able to delete our object. There's no real tagging at the moment because the cube doesn't get instantiated with the username. But we should be able to spawn some cubes and then remove the cube. So if we just spawn something and then right click, we can also delete it. That's great. So before we move on, quickly save it and let's build and run. And let's see if the IPC to destroy those cubes are synchronized as well as spawning. Come on, Unity. Let's get it. Alright, so can I open up 2 instances here? Bit slow there, but there we go. Log in with one account on here and the other on the other screen. So now comes the part of trying to figure out where we both are. Okay. Please jump. Can't see him up there. Oh, now it jumps. Should really make the map smaller while testing. That would That would help a lot. Alright, we'll just leave him here and just... Now, my mouse height doesn't seem to want to work at the moment. Okay. It's just the one simple thing you want to test, and then you can never find the other player. Not on the edge, he's more in the middle of the map somewhere. There he is. Alright. So, if I build here, whoops, I clicked outside of the screen, but if I build, I can, well, guess it doesn't work. Try it. Okay, so he can delete his own stuff. The RPC call isn't running. Let's see. Build ID, so it should work. It works locally. We just need to figure out why. Oh, okay. What I did was a little bit stupid. We don't want to set the ID in the script here because that's going to be completely random for both players. What we want is when the object spawns, this is going to be a little bit, maybe this won't work as well as I thought. We could try this. We could say object.getComponent build ID dot ID equals game object dot find objects of type build ID, and then we want to plus it by 1. We want to do dot length and then plus it by 1. Basically what this should do is if there are already build IDs out in the scene, it will get the length and then plus it by 1. So this should essentially work the same as it's been doing locally. I can't believe I didn't think of that. So alright, so if we place something and then right click, okay, so it still removes it, that's all good. The real test is, again, is it gonna work on the network? It should work now, there's no reason why it shouldn't. Because this is always going to be the same unless there becomes an issue with the players, with this whole RPC desyncing and then some objects not being spawned for other clients, and then this might have a little bit of an issue. But for now, let's just see how it goes. Hopefully we spawn a bit closer to each other this time so we don't have to run around. Alright, here comes the task of figuring out where we are. I'm kind of looking outwards on the other account. Oh, there it is. Much easier than before. Alright, so with this account, let's just get a bit closer. Let's spawn some objects. Now, if I right click with this one, there we go. Now, because they've all got the same ID, we can easily see that it works. Let's just switch over to this player for a sec and spawn some things here. Okay, so just test. I can delete this player's objects. Yes, I can. And then I should be able to just delete any one of my own. And I can. So there it is. We don't have basically rights working for it at the moment. It doesn't see if it's your current user or not. Let me just see. Yeah, unfortunately I do need to head off. But it is a start. In the next video, we will start with the ID system and making it so we also check if it's the current user that owns the block. If it is, then he can destroy the block. On top of that, we're also going to be adding a health system, so any tools or weapons can start dealing damage to the block. But yeah, that's basically it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, give the video a like and subscribe if you want to see more. Don't forget that we have a Discord server, so if you guys need any help, we do have plenty of people, including myself, who are willing to help out. Along with all the assets for this project, not the scripts, just the art assets, they're also in the Discord server. Alrighty, so thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.